Peace, this your host, Selah Shalom. And this is a Cosmon Teachings in the words of Jehovah and his angel ambassadors from the Cosmon Bible, Oahspe. And the set of series today is called Decoding the Bible with Oahspe. And this is the introduction. Now it's time to put both books side by side to see which one has more potential truth in it, since this been the argument. Now you have some who try to discredit Oahspe because they claim it's not authentic. It was channeled by demons. It has no history, although I clarified these things in the past. But now we're going to open both books and let the books speak. No excuses, no complaints about the Bible or Oahspe. We're just going to let the book speak for itself. And we will see which book has more authenticity of truth in it. Now, for the record, I'm not against, nor am I for the Bible, nor am I against, nor am I for the Oahspe. I'm coming on an even playing ground, and I'm not going to favor one over the other. I read both books, and for me, Oahspe is more informative than the Bible, and that's because I've read the Oahspe. Many people never even heard of the book, and many people never even read the book. Now that's me. You may differ. Now in the Bible, it contains the account of the Hebrews, which the majority of the Bible is based off, the Hebrew Torah, and the historical accounts of the Hebrews, right? So we're talking about one people in one nation. So the Bible is not covering world history in a sense, but a portion of history pertaining to one people. Now, what is the origin of the Bible? As scholars say, the first 5 books of the Bible was written by Moses, as most would agree. So if this is to be true, Moses would be the starting point for the Bible. And being that the term Bible is a modern day phrase, the original term was Torah, or Tanakh. And the word Torah, Tanakh, means law. So if it's not law, it's not Torah. Okay? Now, the next question would be, who was Moses in Egypt? Now, I did a vid called Who Was Moses in Egypt? And I explained through historical evidence that Moses would have been Amenemhet IV. And Amenemhet IV was the last male ruler of the Middle Kingdom of Egypt. And the Exodus was the expulsion of the Hekakasut, the Hebrews, in 1546 BC. So the time period is around 1500 BC when the Torah was revealed to Moses. So you have over thousands of years of history and culture and civilization before Moses and the Torah coming out of Egypt and Sumer, or what they call Mesopotamia. Now, let's take a look at the civilization that preceded Moses and the Torah, so we can get an idea of the history that predates Moses and the Torah. The time the Hebrews entered Egypt was around 2000 BC, which you can see on the walls of Khenimhotep II. And they left during the expulsion of the Hekakasut, which was the Hebrews, in 1556 BC. So this time period is over 400 years, as the time period they spent in Egypt. Now, before Moses and the Torah, the Egyptians had their texts about a creation story, along with the Mesopotamians, or Sumerians, who had their texts about a creation story. So keep this in mind, that these two civilizations had their own accounts of creation tales before Moses and the Torah. Now, before the Hebrews came into Egypt, prior to 2000 BC, they resided in the regions of Canaan. And in Canaan, the Sumerian tales of creation were well known in those regions. And when the Hebrews came into Egypt, they became familiar with the Egyptian culture and the stories of creation. So the creation story we have in the Bible is a copy of these two cultures. And remember that the Torah means law, and the story of creation is not law, it's not Torah. In the beginning, God created the heavens of the earth is not Torah. That's not law. So how did this become the head verse to start the Bible? I'm going to address these things through the series. Now coming back to Moses and the beginning of the Torah, later known as the Bible. Now, according to popular belief, Moses was led up a mountain and received 613 laws from an angel. Now, this is how the Torah came about. Now, when people found out that Oahspe was channeled through automatic writing, they write it off as demonic. But what these simple-minded people fail to realize is that channeling and mediumship is receiving information from the spirit world. That's the root cause. So to determine if anything is demonic or not, you would have to analyze the text. Wouldn't that make sense? Even in the Bible, it states, test the spirit. John 4:1. Dear friends, Do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. See that? So how can you know if Oahspe is from God or not if you never read it? You never test the spirit. And this is how I know Oahspe is not demonic, because I test the spirit. I examine the text. And if it was demonic, I wouldn't even be wasting my time presenting the information. Now, when we apply this idea of mediumship, channeling, to Moses' case, it's the same thing, because Moses was receiving instructions from a spirit, from an angel, from the spirit world. See that? So he was used as a channel or a medium to bring about the 613 laws from the spirit world. And Oahspe was revealed in the same manner, information coming from the spirit world. Now that that's clear, let's move on back to Moses and the Torah, because I want to make it clear that the Torah, Bible, only goes back to 1500 BC as its starting point. And I want to make that clear. Now, when Moses received the Torah, the very first verse of the Torah is, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind." This is the very first verse that should begin in the Torah. And to prove that this is the first verse of Torah, in Matthew chapter 22, verse 36 through 38, the question was asked, "Master, which is the great commandment in the law?" And Jesus said unto him, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment." So here it states, this is the first law in the Torah. But when we open up the Bible, it doesn't start like that. It starts with, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." This is not Torah. It's not law. And we're going to address how these things came about throughout the series. Now I'm going to use historical facts and evidence along with Oahspe to decode the Bible throughout this series. And with that, I'd like to say peace and blessings, and catch you on the next documentary called Decoding the Elohims of Genesis with Oahspe. Shalom.